Hi, it's psychic medium Angela McCullen, and you are listening to Divinely Connected. I am so excited to be here with you on my very first episode of my podcast, Divinely Connected. I wanted just to say hi, tell you a little bit about myself, and let you know how I got here because it has been a wild ride. All right. So, I am a wife, a mom of three, and an entrepreneur. All happened around the same time. Rewind about 10 years. I was in the midst of growing my family with my beautiful husband, Ryan, and I was just living life as I did up to that point. And I know. If I can do this and I can talk to dead people, how did I not know? Well, I did know that I was intuitive. I just didn't know what was happening. So for me, I would have said up to this point, I'm very intuitive. I don't know how to use it. I have a very wild imagination as a child. So seeing people in my rooms was not something that would have freaked me out or would have caused a lot of fear within me. I also was so into going to psychics and having my cards read and having these experiences. It's something that would have felt very at home and familiar to me, even though I did not know I could do it at that time. But up until that moment, that I realized that, oh my gosh, I can talk to dead people. I really did not have a clue. I did not have a clue. And I watched Long Island Medium. I love Teresa Caputo, right? It's just something that has been so in the forefront of my mind and in my interest, but I wasn't in a position to be able to put it together. And as I talk about this with my students and with clients throughout the years, what I have recognized that was such a disconnect for me was that how I thought it worked versus how it worked is completely off. So for me, and I don't know if I just picked this up again with a wild imagination or if it was because of the movies and the TV shows and everything that we watch. That was the only kind of reference that I would have at that point of connecting with departed souls. But I really didn't. I really thought that that mediums would see zombie like physical beings with their physical eyes and hear like a deep godly voice. And I know how silly that sounds, but that is the truth. That's how I thought this worked, and I knew for certain that that wasn't happening to me. Right? So how dare I oversee that? But what I realized through the years is that it's a lot more internal than I anticipated. So for me and the type of upbringing and the experiences that I had of coming up in the 80s and 90s where you were seen and not heard. Don't you dare have an opinion. Don't you dare have an emotion. Don't have no feelings about nothing, right? And then to be so creative, and I always had imaginary friends, and I always had such that creative outlet. Of course, it would be something that was easily brushed off for me. So rewind to the actual moment that I intentionally started to trust within my intuition. Now, my soul sister, my bestie, Melissa, she has been my number one support, my number one ass kicker when needed. But I really do not believe that I would be on this journey if it wasn't for her and her support. My husband absolutely supports me, but he was never someone who was into this. So to have Melissa, who has been to psychics and mediums, be able to know firsthand, oh my gosh, Angela, what you're saying and what you're doing is completely accurate, and you have this ability to help people. It just had a little more weight than my beautiful, loving husband who's just wants the world for me. So it was 2000. Let's rewind. It was 2014 January. That's when it started. And we found someone new. This is what me and Melissa would do. We would hear someone who could do cards or a psychic, and we would find, and this would be our girls' night. And At that time, I just had my boys. So like I said, I'm a mom. I have 3 children, William, Daniel, and Becky. William is 11, Daniel is 9, and Becky is 7. And so Dan was just a little squirt. So Becky was over, or sorry, Melissa was over my place, and she had this Skype call with this lady from Nancy who was in Ontario area. We're in Nova Scotia. So um, she went into the room and she came out and we were in between sessions and she's like, oh my gosh, Ange, like, ugh, I didn't like her. I didn't feel like anything that she said resonated. And she was definitely disappointed. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I went into my call feeling a little bit discouraged. And then the lady changed my life. Now, she didn't do the work for me. All right. So I had my session. I walked in and we were on our little Skype call. And like I said, the bar was low. And she said, oh my God, you're so ascendant. Your aura is so colorful. There's a lot of purple. I remember specifically saying that because at the time I had a lot of baby weight on and I was looking at myself in the Skype and I was like, oh my God, Angela. And I was just criticizing myself. So she was giving me this nice compliment and I was like, oh, thank God. And it definitely has stuck with me all those years. But she would go on to say how I was a seer and remind you, I did not know what any of this meant at the time. I just knew that I would get these flips in my stomach or I would know something is up, but I would often not act on it or trust it and then wish that I did. That was pretty much the basis for my intuition. And so she was saying, you're a seer, you're going to do this for work, you're going to do very well with it. You will be the breadwinner of your family. There's going to be a book involved. And the funny thing is I believed her. I knew she was right. And I asked her, well, what kind of way am I going to be using my intuition? And that she couldn't tell me. And this is something that will come up often is where they need you to figure it out for yourself. You still need to do the work, right? So off I went with a few book titles and a few words that you wanted me to look up. And I just felt so drawn to it. And I thought, well, you know what? If I could learn how to do cards, that would save me and Melissa a lot of money. And I will just do it for for my friends and family who are open to it. Right? Was kind of the thought. But because my boys were only 18 months apart, I really just needed a little time for me, like a little mom time. So it tended to be, be home with the babes and then Ryan get home from work and then I would have time to indulge in it, read my book or Google around and see what it is that I can find. And at that time I was just a sponge trying to figure out and trying to gain some knowledge so I wasn't so dang insecure, because for me it was something that was very stressful. The process was very stressful for me. Some people can jump in with both feet and tell everyone screaming from the roof, oh hey, I'm psychic. I am not one of those people. It took me over 3 years to utter that sentence. And it took me almost 3 years to get to a point where I felt comfortable kind of going out of my little box of protection, right? So I was a sponge. I learned to try, I read all the books, any books I can get my hands on, learned about law of attraction, learned about intuition, learned about spirit guides, learned about chakras, discovered Dr. Wayne Dyer, who I just love. I still listen to his book every time. Oh my gosh. If you can get his audiobooks, like I just love the way that he speaks. I love the way that he words things, and even just his voice I find is so comforting. I still to this day will just re-listen because you take away a little nugget every time. And so I was the sponge and I was trying to learn how to do cards and I couldn't do them. And I was too intimidated by them. At that time, I did not understand that I hold the power. I thought the cards hold the power. So they themselves were so intimidating to me. And I found this little support group on Facebook. And I laugh now because I'll tell you, I bought a deck of Oracle cards early on, Doreen Virtue's Oracle cards. And she has since discredited her work, but her earlier work, her angel work, her Hay House work, oh my gosh, I still prefer it. I still align with it. Anyways, so I remember having her deck of cards, and this is why I thought I couldn't read cards. because every single time that I would shuffle the deck, I would get the mediumship card. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong. I'm not a fucking medium. And threw them in my nightstand for like 2 years. Kid you not. But no, that is definitely was that like that torturous. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I can do this. I don't believe in myself. I don't trust in myself. Let me see if I can find any supports. And at the time, I could only find, and this is what's so funny, right? Because the universe will bring what it is that they need, what it is that you need. They'll remove what it is that you don't need. And at that time, I could literally only find one Facebook group that has anything to do with intuition. And it was a mediumship support group. And I thought, well, geez, this is better than nothing. I guess I'll just poke around and see what they're saying and see if I can learn anything. And at this time, it was such a inspired, motivative type of environment because there was a few other collaborative mediums who were earlier on in their path, and they were just so excited, and they were so excited to share what they've learned. So it was definitely the right time, the right place at the right time. And so I was hanging back in the wings, and I was watching the videos, and I was listening to their conversations and reading their posts, and I really took a lot of value from it. And what really was so life changing for me is that they would do picture reads. And in this group, they would post, there was a few admins, and they would post a picture, and they say, receive in comment below what you receive, and within 2 to 3 days they would put a date and a time on it. We will give you feedback. So this would be something I would lay there. I remember just being exhausted with my two boys, and they'd be down for their nap, and I'd be laying there trying to do these picture reads and commenting, and no one knew me. I was in a completely different country, so I had absolutely nothing to lose. And oh my gosh, I was like, oh my God, this is accurate. Oh my God, this is accurate. Oh my God, this is accurate. That is so wild to me. And so I really learned so much by being in that group. And again, in conjunction with reading the books and really using my spirit guides to guide me forward and bring me to what it is I need to learn, to me to what it is I need to release, etc. So then one night they had this offering, and it was to join the spirit circle where the intention was to sit with spirit and to practice for new mediums to practice and get some feedback, but also to build your power in that energy. And I didn't know what any of that meant. And I still don't even know to this day why I signed up, but I did. That was definitely divine intervention. And I thought, well, geez, you know what? I'm behind a keyboard, absolutely a spiritual closeted keyboard warrior at this time, right? In a nice way. I wasn't being unkind. I was just scared to death. And I remember joining this group, and they said, listen, do this meditation, and sent me a YouTube link, and come back and tell us what you get. And I'm like, okay. And then I did. And then I was waiting for somebody's turn, and they, commented what they got, and they were kind to her. And I was like, okay, well, this is definitely a nice environment. So then it was my turn, and I comment, and I had so much. I didn't even know where it was coming from. I remember specifically hearing accents within my head. I remember feeling, oh, this was a female and this was a male. And I was like, am I making this up? What is happening? And their response was, you never did this before? And I was like, oh my God, I am Teresa Caputo. And honest to God, you could have peeled me off the ceiling for 3 to 4 days. I knew that my life forever changed in that moment. I knew in my heart of hearts, even though I was scared, even though it still took me over a year to put myself out and start doing readings for the public after this. So this was 2 years into my journey, and still having a year before I would branch out. And I just knew my life forever changed. It forever changed. This was the genie that you could not put back in the bottle for me. This was something that I just knew that I was exactly where I needed to be, learning exactly what I needed to be learning for what felt like the first time in my life, right? So, and it was hard. Like I said, I was 80s child. I was born in the 80s, growing up in the 90s. There was not a lot of this emotional support. There wasn't a lot of communication. There wasn't a lot of allowing to have your own opinion, right? So for me, because everything is so internal, it's feelings that I'm feeling internally. It's images that I'm seeing in my head internally. The biggest hump or the biggest setback for me was to start trusting what I've been told for a lifetime not to trust. Right. And of course, there was some, complicated relationships along the way, and there was some alcoholism along the way around me. So there was definitely that gaslighting. That whole belief within myself wasn't there. So for me, that was the biggest struggle. And honestly, over the years with people who I connect to, this seems to be the most common hump for people, is to trust what they receive. Because I am a firm believer, and I have seen with my own eyes that we do not need to become intuitive. We are intuitive. We need to learn to allow ourselves to be intuitive. So there's a lot of limiting beliefs. There's a lot of generational beliefs. There's a lot of societal beliefs that really put up such a wall between us and our ability to trust within ourselves and to hear our intuition, right? So there was a lot of healing to even just allow myself to move forward within this path. And I'm so glad that I did, because my life is forever changed. And even though I get to do this for work, which is the best job, that is just beyond fulfilling and beyond exciting and beyond impactful. It checks all the boxes for me. My biggest takeaway from embracing my intuition has been the confidence and self love that I feel for myself. To know and trust that I'm not alone. I spent all of my 20s just searching for love in all the wrong places, searching for that good feeling, breaking down who I was to rebuild this new version of myself and not having a clue if I was coming or going. It brought such a foundation for me to know that there is infinite souls, energies, love on the other side that has been walking us alongside of me every step of the way, is so comforting. Humans are flawed. Humans will let you down. Humans will drop the ball. Humans will get distracted and forget about you. Not your divine team, not your spirit guides, not your angels, not your ascendant masters, not source energy, not your departed loved ones. They are with you every single minute of every single day, cheering you on, wanting the best for you, encouraging you to move forward, encouraging you to find that love for yourself. It is literally life changing. Embracing my divine team and trusting with my intuition has changed my life only in good ways. And it's why I am so passionate wanting to share with others how this is for you too. I'm not special. There's no difference between me and you. You are just as equally special, who has just as equally amount of amazing divine beings on the other side who are cheering you on and rooting for you in this life. And you may say, well, Ange, I can't talk to dead people. But you can to yours, because I believe in my heart that everyone can connect to their divine team and everyone can connect to their departed loved ones. Some of us get to do it for work, but everyone has that ability. And I say it like this: you are a soul. So, of course, you can talk to other souls. And when you break it down, some people, well, I'm not spiritual, I'm not this. You are spirit. Therefore, you are spiritual. This is not something that you need to become. This is something that you need to allow. You need to allow. And it is our God given right. And I'll tell you, and I say God, I say source energy, I say universe, I interchange. but I do mean that ultimate force. So whatever word you're most comfortable with, sub it in. Okay. But God, source energy, the universe, didn't just drop you into this life and go, good luck. There is a GPS system. There is a tour guide. This is your divine team. This is your guardian angels. There is support for you here. And I am going to teach you how to connect with them through this series and through this podcast. I have big plans. I'm so excited. I feel like the opportunities are endless to teach, to share, to explore, to connect yourselves, to do readings, to do guidance readings. This is going to be a one-stop shop here at Divinely Connected. Anyways, I'm getting off track as I do. So I started my journey into coming out of my spiritual closet, which was excruciating for me. Excruciating. I was scared. I was fearful of rejection. I was fearful of criticism. I didn't believe in myself at the time. I just felt intuitively pushed. My divine team was like, you have to do this. And I'm going kicking and screaming, going, okay, I guess so. I made a Facebook page that was called Divinely Connected. I have since found the courage to put my name and my picture on, but at the beginning, it was just a stock photo from Google. And the whole intention for that page was I needed strangers to read. Anybody who has done any type of intuitive work, you know that it is so much easier to read for people who you do not know than it is for who you know. So if you're just starting out, remember that. It's so much easier because you don't have your own thoughts and you don't have your own ideas to fight against. You only receive and there's no resistance to it. So that's why. And then you know what? The rest is history. It's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride since. Became very busy very quickly. I have over a 3-year wait list for a private session. Now that my kids are a little bit older, I'm extending out and I'm traveling through Atlantic Canada, doing venues, doing in-person messages from spirit events. And it's just, I am literally living my dream. I am literally living my dream. I can't wait to talk more with you about this. I can't wait to share all the ups and downs, the lessons that I have learned throughout the years, share so many amazing stories because still 10 years later, Spirit does not stop surprising me. They just don't stop surprising me. It is, I don't know, maybe I just can't get used to it. Oh my gosh, they're so creative. There's so much love. They care about you so much. The way that they communicate, what they bring up in readings. I mean, it doesn't get old. I love it so much. Anyways, thank you so much for joining my podcast, Divinely Connected with Angela McClellan. I hope to hear from you soon.